Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh, and in my ongoing exploration of everything Overwatch lore and story related, it's time to take a look at skins once again. Many of Overwatch's skins have rich historic and cultural references behind them that give a lot of background and talking points to the lore and stories of our favourite heroes and villains. Some are canon and directly show us things about the characters, most very much aren't. But either way, they have awesome details that I'll be explaining in this series. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the shared story and history behind some of Widowmaker's Overwatch skins, Odette and Odile. These both have roots in the ballet that we now know must have been a huge part of her life before meeting Odile Lacroix and her transformation by Talon into the assassin known as Widowmaker. We'll be explaining a bit about the background of Swan Lake, the ballet that the characters Odette and Odile come from, the stories of each of their characters, and seeing how these skins could fit in with Widowmaker's story. So, why are Widow's skins rooted in ballet, where do they come from, and what's the potential significance? To do it justice, we'll need to go back over 130 years and give a quick summary of when one of the most famous ballets in the world was created, as well as its story. Swan Lake's first production was in 1877, although it was born a couple of years earlier when Begachev, the director of Moscow's Imperial Theatres, commissioned the score from someone you might know, Tchaikovsky, for a rather modest fee at the time of 800 rubles. Tchaikovsky, of course, the famous composer, would also go on to compose Sleeping Beauty and The Nutcracker in terms of famous ballet scores, although Swan Lake today is perhaps the most performed ballet around the world. The ballet itself usually takes place in 4 acts. As a quick summary of the story, Siegfried, a prince, is celebrating his birthday when told he has to marry by his mother. Taken hunting to lift his spirits, he falls upon a flock of swans, one of which transforms into the beautiful Odette, the Swan Queen. Victim of a spell cast by the evil owl-like sorcerer von Rothbart, whose reasons are often never fully explained. Odette and her companions are swans by day and only return to being human at night. The spell can only be broken if one who never loved before swears to love Odette forever. If von Rothbart dies before the spell is broken, it can never be undone. So when von Rothbart suddenly appears, Odette intervenes when Siegfried threatens to kill him. As von Rothbart disappears, the Swan Maidens fill the clearing. Siegfried breaks his crossbow and goes about winning Odette's trust as the two fall in love. Sadly, as dawn arrives, the spell draws Odette and her companions back to the lake once more as they return to being swans. On the next night, guests arrive at the palace for a royal costume ball, where 6 princesses are presented to Siegfried, as his mother hopes that he will choose one as his bride. Von Rothbart then arrives in disguise with his enchantress daughter Odile, who is also transformed to look exactly like Odette. Odile and Odette, of course, are often danced by the same ballerina in some productions. Siegfried, mistaking Odile for Odette, has eyes only for her and dances with her. Even though Odette appears as a vision trying to warn Siegfried, Siegfried remains oblivious and proclaims to all and sundry that he intends to make Odile his wife. As von Rothbart shows up, he shows a magical version of Odette to Siegfried, who realises his terrible mistake. Grief-stricken, Siegfried follows Odette back to her lake and begs her forgiveness, swearing that he only loves her. When von Rothbart appears and insists that Siegfried fulfills his pledge to marry Odile, he says that Odette could be transformed into a swan forever. Odette does not wish to live like this, and Siegfried chooses to die alongside her as they both leap into the lake, breaking von Rothbart's spell over the Swan Maidens, causing him to lose his power over them, as he dies too in some productions. What interesting parallels are there between the story of Swan Lake and that of Amelie Lacroix's story? We know Amelie by now as Widowmaker, a nearly emotionless Talon assassin, but we now have confirmed from the new hero skin lore snippets coming to Overwatch soon that before her capture by Talon, Amelie Lacroix was known for much of her life to be an accomplished ballet dancer in Paris. In the White Swan, or tutu of her Odette skin, we perhaps see not only a hint towards Widowmaker's origins, but also perhaps the more innocent past of what Amelie may have been before Gerard, his Overwatch associations, and Talon came into her life. If Amelie was accomplished in ballet and known for her skill, then presumably her pre-Widowmaker life must have been a lot more innocent, much like Odette in Swan Lake. Odette is a tragic heroine in the ballet, often portrayed as vulnerable, gentle, caring, modest, and warm-hearted. As Talon's attempts to kill Gerard and end his Overwatch operation dedicated to fighting them failed, they changed their strategy for perhaps a softer, more vulnerable target. Amelie was kidnapped, and once she was subjected to intense neural reconditioning by Talon, whatever person she was, whatever innocence and past she had, changed dramatically. In some productions of Swan Lake, Odile is known as the Black Swan, and rather than being magically disguised as Odette, is actually her evil twin or double. For example, the famous Bolshoi Russian ballet do this. In Widowmaker's Odile skin, we see not only the Black Swan represented in terms of the tutu, but also the tattoo on her back is changed from her usual spider to a swan to match, and you can also see this in the Odette skin. There are some productions where Odette and Odile are danced by two different ballerinas, but others where they're both danced by the same. This is interesting when we think of what ties the Odile skin to Widowmaker, who effectively has been two different personalities and people in the same body, and who knows, might still be. When Amelie was captured by Talon after their attempts to kill her husband Gerard had failed, she could have been said to have been similarly disguised, in an attempt to bring about the downfall of someone whom, in this case, she loved. As Odile was disguised by Odette at Siegfried's ball in Swan Lake, so Amelie too met her love in a different guise. With her will broken and personality suppressed by Talon in an intense and presumably horrific program of neural reconditioning, the Amelie who was found by Overwatch agents was almost an entirely different personality. Programmed as a sleeper agent, it was only 2 weeks later that she killed Gerard in his sleep, before returning to Talon to be shaped into a perfect assassin. Although that's a sad ending, I'll leave us with one thought. Why would Widowmaker be visiting Gerard's grave in Trace's Reflections comic if she had no emotions left at all, or if perhaps she knew the full or true story of how Gerard came to die? Widowmaker's emotions are numbed according to her story bio, her personality suppressed, but neither may be completely gone. Does she know that she killed Gerard, or the full horror perhaps of what she's been subjected to? Although redemption for Amelie Lacroix might be an impossible prospect, there is great depth in her story and background, and I can't wait to see how her story could pan out in future. Okay, we've learnt about the shared history behind the Odette and Odile themed skins, and how the names, details and story are really tied into the world of the ballet. Finally, for some fun, let's have a quick look at where you can see just some references to Swan Lake and ballet in things we enjoy today. Recently, of course, there's been the Oscar-winning movie Black Swan, starring Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis. Meg, if you're familiar with Family Guy, it centres around the descent into madness of a ballerina, who's kind of one person, but with two very different personalities. In Swan Lake, of course, it's two different personalities that can be quite often played by the same person. If I can cast your mind back to Final Fantasy II, there's a minor portion of Swan Lake music played just before you fight the Lamia boss. In Billy Elliot, of course, a new musical come ballet, the main character dances around at one point while shadowed by his future adult self, very much in a similar way to the dance that can be done sometimes by an Odette or Odile in Swan Lake. Let's not forget, of course, the Muppets who did Swine Lake, with Miss Piggy unsurprisingly jumping in for the role of the lead ballerina. And of course the recent series on US TV, Once Upon a Time. There is a main character called Emma Swan, a bit of a play on the character of the Swan Princess, and not to spoil it, but in future series, the comparison is ever more marked. Last but not least, in another video game, Second Life, remember that? Apparently there was a performance in-game by the Little Princess Ballet Academy, a bunch of people who did a virtual performance of Swan Lake within the game. Thanks very much for tuning in to this skin lore and origins video. If you like this vid, do throw it a like, share it, subscribe for more in-depth lore like this, and do let me know in the comments what you thought, enjoyed or didn't. It all helps me make better videos, and what skins or characters you'd like to see come next, let me know as well. For more Overwatch lore explanation, cultural references and analysis with a bit of fun too, heroes, voice lines, interactions, maps, comics, animated shorts, world and more story besides, do check out my lore series. Big thanks to my supporters on Patreon who make these longer to produce videos more possible. If you'd like to see how you can support this kind of content from just $1 a month, do check out my Patreon linked here. Until next time, I've been Hammeh, take it easy.